Alright, today we have a parrot beak. You can see this. I don't really know. This is my first attempt doing this. This one's been a bonsai for a few years, and today we're just going to trim up some of the larger branches just to give more room for the smaller branches to come in. So we're mainly just going to be taking off the big leaves, leaving the smaller leaves to create a little more ramification. And if we do have any major or larger branches, go ahead and take those out. We do want the finer branches coming up towards the top of the tree. The reason we take these larger leaves out is to provide the sunlight for more of the tree and to get finer branching deeper down into the tree. If the sun can't get there, then the branches aren't going to grow there. And when you're really working on getting finer branching, you really need the space for sunlight to come in so that you can get more secondary and third branches. Otherwise, you're just going to have what you have. It also gives the tree a little more room to grow. With this particular tree, these little tips come out pretty quick and you have to just nip them off. Unless, of course, that's one of the branches that you're trying to develop. Then you would leave it and let it thicken up some. And this tree grows very fast. These shoots will easily come out in a day or less. The biggest thing with any of your branches is if you have branches that are crossing over another branch, it's not really a desirable trait. On some trees it can be interesting, but most of the time it takes away from the lines in your tree to have crisscrossing branches. And then if you look right here, we've got a long straight extension here. We don't want to keep that because it takes away from the character of the tree. It also can change the silhouette a little bit. if you have any branches that are growing underneath the branch, those are generally undesirable as well, simply because it's hard to make them into something they're not, as well as any leaves or branches growing in the V, or the intersection of a branch. If you look real close, right in here, we have two branches growing right next to each other. I'm just going to take the one out from underneath. Sometimes you can leave those and they kind of merge, but aside from that, they're not going to do much for you. Some people freak out when they see a tree that they think was beautiful, and it rightfully is. But the thing with bonsai is it's a living art, so in order to live, it has to continue to grow. And if all of the space it has is full of leaves, then it can't do much for growing, but grow straight up. And that's also an undesirable trait, because we're trying to give the illusion of an older tree in a pot. And if an older tree just grew straight up, it would have very, very little character. And the trees we really like oftentimes have a little hook, a little sass to them, per se. Most bonsais you see aren't just a straight trunk. They're not generally straight up and down. The pines can be, but they generally have a hook in them somewhere, or a bend. So it does create some character, and generally the features of those that's so desirable is the bark. The idea here is just to let a little more sun in. Now, in the instance of this tree, because of the size of it, I'll have to keep a little bit more eye on the water. Not because the tree is going to necessarily transpire more because it has less leaves, but just because more of the soil is exposed. So evaporation can happen a little faster, where when the leaves are all covering it, that process is slowed some. And ideally with the bonsai, you want to be able to see the trunk, unless it's a flowering bonsai, and then you tend to generally want to see some of the trunk anyway, so And I don't know how well the sound will come through, whether people can actually hear me or if they just hear all the background noises. It'll also be interesting to see how long this takes me, because I've never really timed myself, but we're almost done here. There's not that many large leaves on here that really need to come off at this point, and we've got most of the tree opened up. See onto the, and there's another little guy we don't really want. They don't really add any character being there on the side. But there you go. And this will fill back in and covered in leaves in probably 2 months.